All right. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the one and only Wrestling Otaku channel. Of course, your personification of excellence on YouTube and YWC. We're the best reviews wrestling and your three-time YWC channel of the year. And I'm back here once again. It is now here late night, still Tuesday, April the 22nd of 2025. Hope you all have had a good one. This is actually technically my third video of the day. I hope you guys enjoyed the other videos I did earlier in the day. One of which about WrestleMania short video, and then the other one where I was talking about the Baltimore Orioles and how much of a sad sack, sorry, pathetic organization they are right now, giving up 24 runs in a goddamn game. You guys saw me went off in that video. I went off in that video. But anyway, I want to go ahead and do this video because it is something that I've been promising for a while. And so before I get into it, I want to say once again, thank you guys for tuning in, watching the video, supporting the channel. If you haven't already, be sure to like this video and leave a comment afterwards to give your thoughts on anything I cover here. And be sure to subscribe to the channel, man, if you haven't already. Appreciate all the support you can get. We're now well past 700 subs. We're now at like 720. So we are on the road to 1K, man. On the road to 1,000. We're less than 300 subs away from 1,000. So if you guys can help me out with that, that'll be greatly appreciated. Tell your friends, tell everybody you know to subscribe to the Wrestling Otaku channel. But here tonight, I want to go ahead and do this video because in about 2 days, 48 hours from now, we're going to have the 2025 NFL draft. And every year it is a big deal in terms of like the NFL, in terms of the offseason. Really any sort of event when it comes to the NFL is a big deal. That's how popular the NFL is in the United States. Whether it be training camp or OTAs or the combine, but specifically the draft is one of the bigger events. You could say the most, I guess you could make a case for being the most popular event in terms of the NFL offseason every year. Everybody talks about the draft. It's a big attraction. It's a big attraction in the NFL. And every year, it's a real exciting time if you're an NFL fan, if you're a fan of a team where you want to see all the players coming in from college, all the potential, players, the prospects coming in from college, and the potential of these said players, the ones with talent and the ones who are hired, the ones who are highly scouted, who are NFL ready, so on and so forth, take that next step to the NFL level and be potentially starters on an NFL team or an NFL franchise. So it's an exciting time. And personally, it's something I look forward to every year as a Ravens fan, during the offseason, regardless of what the Ravens do during the season. It's something I look forward to every year. And back on my old Wrestling Otaku channel, it's something that I covered. It's something that I delved into quite a bit. I used to have like weekly, monthly draft videos, delving into who I think the Ravens should draft and, stuff like that, prospects that I'm looking at, certain potential players, skill positions the Ravens should, target, they should go after come the draft and stuff like that. And it was a really exciting time, it's something that I've really paid attention to, really since the inception of this channel, specifically, like around 2017, 2018 was when I started regularly doing draft videos on the Wrestling Otaku channel for the Ravens, and so this year's no exception. So obviously this is going to be my second Baltimore sports-oriented video of the day. Today I'm going to be obviously talking about the Orioles. I talked about the Orioles, so I'm sorry. I meant to say I'm going to be talking about the Ravens. And so with this video, I'm here to give you my top five, if you will, or just five in general, prospects with this upcoming 2025 NFL draft that I believe the Ravens should take and pick, or select at the very least, or at the very least consider selecting. So again, this is something that I do every year. In the past, I've done mock draft videos for the Ravens. I've done videos where I basically talk about and run through, break down potential players that I think the Ravens should draft or will draft or whatever the case may be. This is something I've done regularly. Unfortunately, I haven't done as many draft videos in the last year or so that I have in the past. It's just a thing of just me being so busy and just doing so many different things, and so I haven't had the time to, or necessarily the desire to. So I probably won't be doing a mock draft necessarily, or I might. It all depends. We got 2 days left, so I could certainly do one tomorrow, but I'm going to withhold that, maybe, we'll see. But for the most part, we're 2 days away from the draft, and so I'm ready for the draft to take place. So with this video, I'm here to give you 5 talents, 5 prospects with this NFL draft that I believe the Ravens should take come, the 2025 draft in 2 days. And so I've done a little bit of, like I have in past years. I did the research, I did the scouting, if you will, kind of put myself in the role of an NFL scout, and I kind of go out and I look at guys, highlights, on YouTube. I look up and research their time in college, their stats, their profile, if you will, their draft profile and all that kind of stuff. And of course, you got plenty of draft coverage on NFL Network and ESPN and other stations and sites and such. So I have various methods of doing research on these draft, prospects. And so I have compiled a list of 5 guys who I believe the Ravens should strongly consider taking and who I believe the Ravens should pick come this upcoming draft. Now, this is kind of a mix of players that I've seen myself, again, the highlights, and I've looked them up, done the research, stuff like that, and also looking at what I believe the Ravens need going into the draft. And I made a video about this about a month or so ago, talking about what the Ravens should do going forward, their strategy, what their strategy should be, like the just various team needs or skill positions that they should target come this draft. And they do have 11 picks in this draft, so they've got a lot of picks to work with. So they should very much address the needs, that is the glaring needs on the team. So we'll see what they do. We'll see where they go. But anyway, so with that being said, without further ado, let me go ahead and give you guys my 5 draft prospects, the top 5 names that I think the Ravens should pick, more so than anybody else. So let me just run through the list here real quick. So number 1, I'm going to go safety here because, like I said, it is a big, major glaring need for this team. The secondary in general is a major glaring need. I talked about this in the video previously I did a month or so ago, or a couple weeks ago. So I don't really need to delve into that again. But I'm going to go safety here. I'm going to go Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia. Now, when I did my scouting for this draft, I basically looked at all the secondary players, all the defensive backs, and Malachi Starks right now is one of the top 2 or top 3 best safeties in the draft. He has been regularly kind of put up there as like the top 1 or 2 safeties going into this year's draft. He is projected to go mid to late first round. Also, another name, that I'm going to mention in a second here is also kind of in that conversation. There's the various discussion online as to which safety it should be graded higher and stuff like that. They're both projected to go first rounds. Like the top 2 safeties are projected to go first round. I personally favor Malachi Starks a little more, just because I think he is better suited. I think he's more NFL ready, and I think he fits what the Ravens need better. I think he's a better fit for the Ravens personally. So I've obviously done the research. I've seen the highlights. I've looked up, various, obviously, his stats, his time in college back, down in Georgia. And the dude's a beast. The dude's an absolute, is a top-tier defensive, top-tier secondary prospect, top-tier safety. He would plug into that system very well. Him opposite, Kyle Hamilton. Of course, Kyle Hamilton, we drafted him a couple years ago in the first round at 14. And you see where Kyle Hamilton is now. He's one of the best safeties in the league, multiple-time All-Pro, Pro Bowl, selection, multiple years, and I think Malachi Starks has the potential to be that good. He's somebody who the Ravens could use right away. You don't have to wait a year or learn behind somebody or sit behind somebody. He's a talent who you can immediately plug into the system and use him, and so that's what the Ravens need desperately in terms of the secondary, because their secondary was fucking garbage. They were ranked 31st against the pass. They were the 31st ranked pass defense last year. So that should speak volumes. So obviously secondary is a big need, glaring need. Safety is a part of that. And I think they should go first round. They should go Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia. Now, one thing I'm doing with this video is on top of the one player that I'm going to select, I'm also going to give a second option or a second choice in case that player is not available, because sometimes that happens. Obviously, you got other teams who scout players and stuff like that. So sometimes, the player that you want isn't available, so I decided to go with second choice here. So my second choice will be the other safety who's projected to go first round. That being Nick Amenwari, safety out of South Carolina. I've seen his tape. I've seen his highlights, and this dude can go to. He's another guy, much like Starks is immediate NFL ready, plug and play safety who would fit very well on this Ravens team. I personally favor Starks. Like I said, a little more. I think he fits more with the Ravens system. But Amon Ward is certainly a talent in of himself and another guy who they could plug and play immediately. And so either one of these two guys, I'll be fine with either one of them. Both of them are projected to go first round, mid to late first round. Not a whole lot of teams are going to like necessarily reach for a safety because that's not necessarily a popular selection to go like early in the rounds. Usually teams will go after either offensive line or, pass rushers, defensive linemen, things like that, or quarterbacks or wide receivers. That's generally going to be, what's selected first. And then later in the rounds, you're going to have position skills like safety, like running back, tight end. And it's like the safety is kind of in that realm of, not every team is going to reach to select a safety in the first half of the first round of the draft. So I think either one of these two guys, whoever's available, Ravens should take him. If Malachi Starks is on the board, he slides to, I think the Ravens select 27 this year in the first round. If he slides to 27, take Malachi Starks. If he's not available, take Nick Amenwari. And if either one of them are not available, which I seriously doubt because I don't think there are going to be two teams. I don't think any NFL team is necessarily going to draft. I don't think there's going to be two teams ahead of the Ravens that are both going to draft safety. I just don't see it. But in the off chance that does happen, I do have another player who I think the Ravens should take at safety, who will likely be available, or they could wait to the second round. It all depends on how the draft goes. But I'm going to save that because I got some honorable mentions. I'm going to save that name for the honorable mentions. But anyway, that was my first choice. My first choice, Malachi Starks out of Georgia, and also my second choice for that would be Nick Amenwari out of South Carolina. All right, so number two player, I'm going a defensive end here because the Ravens do need, pass rushers, edge rushers, specifically on the D-line. I don't think the D-line is necessarily a position of need, but I do think the Ravens should go out of their way to get some pass rushers because the pass rush has kind of been somewhat, on and off the last few seasons. I do think they need more guys, specifically on the D end, who can rush the passer and as well as, defend against the run and stuff like that. So for my number two, I'm going Jack Sawyer, defensive end out of Ohio State. This is a guy who I look at a guy like a Jack Sawyer, and honestly, just me personally, I could see the next Max Crosby. I see the next Max Crosby. This guy has the potential. I think he's that good, where this guy could potentially be the next Max Crosby for whatever team that drafts him. I think he's got that potential. He's got the look. He's got the ability. He's got the playmaking skills. He can get off the ball. He can shed tackles, or he can get off the line, I should say, on the snap. He can shed tackles. He can get behind the pat. He can get behind the line. Get after the pass rusher, get after the ball carrier, get after the QB, or whoever has the ball. I've seen this guy literally track down fucking players who have the ball in the backfield. And so he's certainly got the athleticism. He's got the playmaking ability to be a stud on the NFL level. Now, I believe he is projected to go late first round, possibly second round as well. He's more of a second round day 2 pick. But if he slides to wherever the Ravens are at, whatever the number is, like I think they're in the 50s, for the second round, whatever number it is, I don't remember right offhand. Probably 53 or 54, somewhere around there. If he slides to the second round, Ravens should absolutely get him. Like he's too good of a stud. He's like a stud, and he's too good to pass up on if the Ravens can get him in the second round, or dare I say the third round. I don't think he's going to slide that far because defensive end pass rushers is a valued position in the NFL. And so I think this guy is going to go pretty high. Not high, like one of the first guys selected in the first round, but I do think he's going to be valued. He's going to be taken in like the first 2 or 3 rounds. So if the Ravens can get him, that's all the more better for them, because they do need edge rushers on the D-line. And my second choice, for that, if not Jack Sawyer, if he's not available, would be his teammate out of Ohio State, that being JT Tuimoloau. I've watched some of his tape, some of his highlights. Did a little bit of research work on him in terms of his player profile, in terms of his stats. And this dude is just as talented, if not more so, than Jack Sawyer. Though personally, I view Jack Sawyer as a little higher. I just think Jack Sawyer has a higher ceiling. But this guy, JT Tumolau, he's a fucking playmaker too, dude. Like he's an off the ball, get after the fucking quarterback, get after the ball carrier type of playmaker. He can shed tackles. He's got a little inside move. He can he's got that bull rush. He's got that, he's got that speed, that quickness, that kind of what the fuck they call it, that change direction, ability, that ability to kind of shift his body, shift his weight, shift his speed to wherever he needs to go, in pursuit of the ball carrier. So I just think he's got that ability too. And he is also projected to go second round, possibly third round. So he's probably more of a get, or more of a potential selection in terms of the Ravens, like in terms of if if the Ravens want to select him in the second or third round, should he slide that far, which I think he will. I think he's going to be available come around that point. And so if Jack Sawyer is not available, I should say, then I would definitely go JT Tumolau out of Ohio State at defensive end. So that's my second choice for my number 2. All right, number 3, I'm going to go corner here, cornerback, because once again, secondary, it's a glaring need. Not as bad as necessarily safety. I think personally safety should be the priority, just because it's hard to find a good safety in the draft in the later rounds. The Ravens have experimented with this in the past. They've failed miserably. I personally think the Ravens should go after safety first. They should do a safety first in the first or second round, wherever they decide to draft them at. Depending on whatever Eric DeCosta and their front office in terms of like who decides who drafts what, who drafts what player, blah blah blah. Whoever makes the decision in terms of the draft, whatever direction they decide to go, I personally think they should go safety first. But I do think corner is a need as well. Cornerback is a need as well. And this team did nothing. I mean, absolutely, literally nothing to address the secondary at all. They didn't get a safety. They didn't get a corner. Granted, there aren't a whole lot of there aren't a whole lot of options for safety in free agency. There were a couple of corner options, but they passed up on every single one of them. And really, if you think about it, I think I addressed this in the video I did a few months ago, or a month or two ago, or a few weeks ago. The only real splash play, quote unquote, that this team made in free agency was signing DeAndre Hopkins, which I like that move, but it's just one guy. He's an older version of himself. Outside of that, all they did was re-sign their own free agents. They didn't go out and get anybody. They didn't go out and get a corner or nothing. They didn't address nothing really in free agency. So this draft, it is imperative that they address the fucking needs, the glaring needs, and the glaring weaknesses of this team, which in this case, the biggest weakness to me is the secondary. So they should go corner here. Now, they do have guys on the team right now still. Obviously, they got Marlon Humphrey. They got Nate Wiggins, who they drafted first round last year. He's shown flashes. It's going to be a second year, so we'll kind of get more of a glimpse as to how good he can be. They also drafted TJ Tampa last year, so I didn't really see much of him. I guess he's more of a kind of a backup or a project kind of player. But I do think they need to go corner. So for my number 3 for corner, I will go Darian Porter, cornerback out of Iowa State. Looking at this guy's highlights, he has the makings and personally of a really solid top-tier corner. Like, I don't think he'll necessarily be a starter right away, but I do think he has the potential to, over time, become a starter, maybe within his first year, rookie year, as soon as his second year. He's got the playmaking ability. He's got the ball skills. I think he's got looking at his highlights on YouTube and such, and seeing his his player profile and everything, I think he's got the makings of being a very good corner who could develop into being a very good corner down the line. He's got good tackling ability. He's got very aggressive off the ball, or very aggressive. Like he plays very tight man coverage, which is something the Ravens desperately need. Somebody who can get after, who can stay with his assignment in the backfield, which is something that they struggle to do. The corners that they had struggled to do this year. You got guys fucking getting all kinds of separation and resulting in big plays, being made against their secondary, which resulted in them being one of the worst secondaries in the league last year. And so a guy like this is desperately needed, somebody who can, defend whoever who can follow whoever he's defending, who can get after the ball, who can pass defend and things of that nature. And he's also very good in terms of run blocking as well, or getting after running backs or wide receivers in the backfield as well. So we've seen him make plays behind the line, tackles for loss, things like that. And so I think Darian Porter is a very low, very underrated, kind of under the radar dark horse player in terms of a corner that the Ravens can select. He's going to be like he's projected to go third, fourth round, so he's like a day 2, day 3, late day 2, day 3 selection. I think the Ravens should take a look at him out of Iowa State. I'm sorry, Iowa State. And then my second choice, if not Darian Porter, I'll go Trey Amos, cornerback out of Ole Miss. Trey Amos to me is more of a raw kind of talent. He's another guy who's very good at getting after the pass. Sticking with whoever he's covering. A very tight cover corner, man coverage. He can also play a little bit of zone as well, and he's very good at getting at the ball. When you watch the highlights, the several highlights that I've seen of him, he's very good at pass defense. Getting after the ball, knocking the ball down, knocking the ball out of receivers' hands in terms of pass defense and passes defense. Yeah. Passes batted down, stuff like that. In terms of the 50-50 balls, he's very good at that. He's very good at getting after the ball carrier, whoever it is, be it in the backfield or in the field of play or in the backfield or in the secondary, wherever he is. Very good, very intuitive player. The only knock on him is, he needs to work on his tackling because his tackling is kind of weak, like in the highlights that I've seen of him, and I've seen other people comment that as well. So if he can work on his tackling, if he can be coached to, be a better tackler, I think he can be a very good player down the line. But, it's more of a work in progress than anything else. Trey Amos is more of a work in progress that's, the Ravens can certainly, they can certainly take a guy like that and coach him up to be a very solid guy in the NFL, on the NFL level. So those are that's my number 3, Darian Porter out of Iowa State, and my number 2, or my second selection, would be Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. My number 4, I'm going offensive line, which is another need on the team. A lot of people are saying, they should take an offensive lineman. I personally don't think offensive line is as glaring a need as, say, the secondary, although it is a position of need because they did lose some people. They need, specifically a tackle and a guard. They did re-sign Ronnie Stanley for 3 years, although I don't fucking know why because, the dude's injury prone as fuck. But yeah, provided Ronnie Stanley stays healthy, the offensive line should be solid for the most part. Like I said, I don't think it's as glaring of a need as people were making it out to be. You got Tyler Linderbaum at center is very good. Ronnie Stanley, provided he stays healthy. Then they got guys like Roger Rosengarten, who they drafted a couple years ago. They also got, Daniel Faalele, and they got a couple guys who they kind of shift between guard and tackle. So they got players there. But it's just a matter of, I do think they do need pieces in terms of the offensive line, a tackle and a guard specifically. So for that, I'm going to go ahead and take, for my number 4, I'm going to go ahead and, all right, sorry about that. So anyway, my number 4 pick is offensive line. I'm going to go one tackle and one offensive tackle and one guard here. So kind of like a 4A, 4B type thing here. So for my tackle, for the offensive tackle, I'm going to go Cameron Williams out of Texas. And for guard, I'm going to go Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. Both these two guys had some pretty impressive highlights, of what I've seen of them. They looked pretty solid, and in terms of like their film, in terms of like their profiles, in terms of like their stats and things out of college, I really liked what I saw. So it is really kind of hard to judge and grade and kind of scout offensive linemen because they don't have a whole lot of highlights because, again, it's offensive linemen. There's really not a whole lot that you can look at outside of, what they do on the offensive line blocking wise and stuff like that. So there's very rarely like a whole lot of highlights for offensive linemen. Although this year there does seem to be quite a bit of, highlights for various, more well-known offensive linemen going into this draft. So I was able to get highlights for both of them. And from what I've seen, it was pretty impressive. Cameron Williams out of Texas, he played at right tackle for a majority of his time there in college, and he was pretty solid at his position. He had multiple, he was elected for multiple honors, so on and so forth. And the Ravens do, to me, more so need a right tackle because obviously, again, they re-signed Ronnie Stanley. He's obviously going to be over there at left tackle, barring he gets injured or something like that. So I think the Ravens should target a right tackle. Even though again they do have Rosengarten, they got Dano Fale as well. Although they do need somebody, opposite Ronnie Stanley just in case he goes down. So I imagine one of those two guys will be over there. And you need somebody at right tackle. And somebody like, Cameron Williams can maybe play a year or two behind whoever they have at right tackle. Or, we'll see if whoever they decide is the most impressive coming out of training camp, we'll see. But his name certainly should be in the conversation. And then Tate Ratledge, he's somebody who another kind of low key dark horse, really under the radar offensive lineman. He had a really impressive 40 time in the combine, and he's been kind of garnering some attention for himself the last few months leading up to the draft. And again, the Ravens should at this point, I personally think they will select a guard and a tackle because, like I said, they do have 11 picks, so they got a lot of they got a lot of chances to go offensive line here. I do think they will go both. I do think they will select a tackle and a guard. But I think these two guys are guys who fit the system. I do think they will be available whenever the Ravens decide to draft. I don't think the Ravens should draft. I don't think they should spend a day one or day two. I don't think they should go first round, second round on an offensive lineman. I don't think it's that urgent of a need. I think they could personally wait until third, fourth round, maybe later than that. But I personally, these two guys were projected to go third round, fourth round. So I think either one of them or both of them would be great. Would be great fits for them. You can plug them into the system. Maybe spend a year or two behind the line, or behind whoever they decide to have starting, and they can be in the running. They can be compete, for that starting position. I think that they have that potential. Both of them have the potential to be something really good. So those are my picks for number 4. And my number 5, I'm also going kind of 1A, 1B type thing here. For my number 5, I'm going running back, and for my second choice, I'm going a wide receiver. For the running back, I'm going Damian Martinez out of Miami, and for the wide receiver, I'm going Ty Felton out of Maryland. So Damian Martinez, I do think the Ravens should at some point select a running back to be behind Derrick Henry, which of course, obviously Derrick Henry is going to be starting. He's, in his second year there. Last year, he fell just short of 2,000 yards rushing on the season. He's one of the best fucking running backs of the year. One of the best running backs in the NFL last year. The dude had a fucking all-pro year. He got back to his days of being, multiple time Pro Bowler, rush title leader, being the rush leader for the season. If it wasn't for Saquon Barkley of the Eagles, who had over 2,000 yards, Derrick Henry would have been the rush leader last year. He would have had the rush title. But sadly, he fell just short of 2,000. But he was like very close. He was like within 100. He was like 100 yards shy, or close to 100 yards shy of rush yards shy of getting over 2,000 rush yards. So Derrick Henry's probably going to be there for a good while. But I'm saying the Ravens should draft somebody else just to kind of, be behind him or play behind him. Maybe he can have some, get some experience, get some of the snaps in whenever Derrick Henry's not there, and also be a kind of security blanket, be somebody who could be a second tier in case something would happen to Derrick Henry, be an injury, God forbid. But I look at Damian Martinez, like in terms of a raw talent, in terms of like his highlights, and he's a very solid, very, very decent, looking running back, in terms of like what he can do. Good downhill runner, very physical. He's got the breakaway speed, or he's got the speed. He can accelerate in space, and he can also break tackles, shed block, shed tackles, stuff like that. I've seen this guy bulldoze past, opposing defensive players, bulldoze past opposing defensive backs and such to get to the end zone and such. And so he's got the speed, he's got the speed, and he's also got the size and abilities, about good 6 foot 6'1". So he's got the power. He's a power runner, but he's also got the speed as well. Kind of very similar to a Derrick Henry, where he's more of a downhill runner, where he gets the ball, he gets into that kind of mode, and he gets that speed, that again, that downhill push. And then, it's really hard to stop a guy like that. At 6 foot 6'1", it's really hard to stop a guy like that. And so for me, Damian Martinez, another kind of late round third, day 3 selection. I believe they project him like 4th round, potentially 5th round. So he's a guy who the Ravens could pick. He was certainly going to slide down to that spot. So if the Ravens want a super utility player, I would go for Damian Martinez. And then as for Ty Felton out of Maryland, I personally believe the Ravens should select, more Maryland players. They need more homegrown talents. And to me, Ty Felton was another very underrated, under the radar kind of player. He his senior year, he he had like over 1,000 yards receiving. He had a lot of good plays, solid plays out of that slot receiver position. He also played on the outside, in terms of the X receiver as well. He's a playmaker as well in his own right. He's got not necessarily a super tall, wide receiver. He's not not necessarily a size receiver or whatever. He's about 6'1", 6'2", but he's more of a possession guy. But he can also get that speed as well, coming out of slot position. And I've seen him make some moves in terms of his highlights, and so he's a guy who could be much like Damian Martinez, he could be a super utility player for this team, and he's going to be a late round pick as well, a day 3 pick, 4th, 5th round. And if the Ravens want to take a chance on him, come the 4th or 5th round, I would not be mad if they took somebody like this. And so I do think again they do need players like this. I don't think they're necessarily going to reach for a running back or wide receiver. I'm just saying. With 11 picks in this draft, you need, they're going to take as many players as they can. They're going to, fill as many holes as they can. And I personally think wide receiver, and running back are two positions that they can take in the later rounds. They can build, build up, coach up players like this to potentially be studs down the line, either on the offense or on special teams. So, it's two guys who aren't necessarily skilled positions of need, or players in need per se, but I do think that they add depth to the positions that they're in. So those are my, I guess you could say, depth position players for this draft. So those are my number 5 picks: Damian Martinez and Ty Felton. And then my honorable mentions. Let me just wrap this up because we're over 30 minutes now. So my honorable mentions, I have 2. The first being Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. I did say that if the first 2 safeties that I mentioned before on this video, Malachi Starks and Nick Warrior, are not available in the first round, the Ravens should absolutely take a guy like Xavier Watts. He is a playmaker. He's a stud. To be the 3rd best safety in the draft. He looks to be the 3rd best safety in the draft. And if the first 2 guys I mentioned aren't available, Xavier Starks, he's right there. Take him 1st round, take him 2nd round. He's going to be available on either of those 2 days. He is projected to go 2nd. I will take him at 1st. If those 2 guys I mentioned aren't available, I will take him at 1st. Little known fact, Kyle Hamilton, who we drafted at 14 a couple years ago, he was out of Notre Dame. Can you imagine Kyle Hamilton and Xavier Starks in that backfield with the playmaking ability that I've seen this guy have? He's a ball hawk. He was, getting had all sorts of fucking picks, interceptions. Stepping in front of the playmaker, stepping in front of the intended targets. He's got a good eye for the ball. Like, the dude's a ball hawk. And I think he would work well. He would fit well on that team and on that defense and that secondary. So Xavier Watts, if he's available and the first 2 options aren't there, absolutely Ravens should take him, whatever spot they're in, 1st or 2nd round. And then my second honorable mention will be Braden Swinson, defensive end out of LSU. This is another addition in terms of pass rusher, in terms of defensive end pass rushers or edge rushers, who again I do think the Ravens need more of in terms of that D line outside of the opposite or. Aside from the outside linebackers, that we have whoever's going to play outside linebacker, we need somebody on the D line who has the ability, the propensity to rush the passer as well. And I think Braden Swinson fits that mold, fits that bill, much like Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau would as well. So I look at him. I've seen his highlights. He's a potential. He's a dark horse as well. I think I believe he's projected to go day 2, day 3, 2nd, 3rd round, and if the Ravens, if they want to take a chance on him, I would not be mad if they took a chance on him. So, if Jack Sawyer and JT Tuimoloau aren't available, I would take a chance on a guy like a Braden Swinson. So, we'll see what happens, man. So those are my 2 honorable mentions, and that is everybody on my list. So those are the 5 top prospects, draft prospects coming into the 2025 NFL draft that I personally believe the Ravens should look at and select and take in their upcoming 2025 NFL draft. So we will see what happens in 2 days from now. We'll see what happens on Thursday. Come night 1 of the draft, it's going to be a big spectacle. It's going to be a big deal, as it is every year. And so on that night, of course, I'm going to be doing my video, my draft coverage. Whoever the Ravens take at 27, obviously I'm going to do a reaction video, as I have in years past. I did it last year, the year before. So every year, when the Ravens make a selection, I've done a reaction video. So that's obviously going to continue going into this year. So So we'll see what happens on Thursday. We'll see what the Ravens do with this upcoming draft. I'm excited. Can't wait. It's always fun to, follow along, and come, draft time and with all the kind of festivities and all the kind of, everything that goes into, the NFL draft. It's always fun to follow. But anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say for this video. So thank you guys for watching. For those of you who have watched the video up to this point, certainly hope you enjoyed it or found it, enjoyable, informative, whatever have you. So if you did, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment. Once again, give me your thoughts on my selections, my picks or my the players that I believe the Ravens should take. Go ahead, hit me up. Give me your thoughts on the comment. If any fellow Ravens fans in the comments who are watching this video happen to watch this video, go ahead and give me your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think the Ravens should take? Where do you think they should go in regards to players that they should select in the NFL draft? Go ahead and give me your thoughts. And be sure to subscribe again to the channel if you haven't already. Push all the support you get. With that being said, it's pretty much going to do it for this video, man. So thank you for watching once more. I will see you guys in the next video. And I will be sure, of course, to see you Thursday night. NFL Draft 2025, Ravens 27, when they're on the clock, after they make that selection, yours truly will be right here with that reaction video. And it's going to be recorded right here, and I'm going to post it as soon as possible right here on the channel. You guys will see it right here. So be looking out for that, man. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. 2 days away. And so NFL Draft is here. Let's get it, man. Let's do it, Ravens. Let's do it, Eric DaCosta. No stupid shit, please. Anyway, that's all I got to say for this video. Thank you for watching once more. Until next time, Rash and Otaku, I'm out for now. See you guys later.